Greetings, adventurers, and welcome to the Micflayers podcast. I'm your host, Martin O'Dwyer, and with me, as always, is your host, Conor O'Brien. How are we doing today, Conor?
Not too bad at all, buddy. Thank you very much for asking. How are you?
Tired, as you can probably tell, but I'm good. I'm solid. I had a decent weekend. On almost finished my work week now as well, so just gotta just keeping it going. And sure, look, always fun to come here and talk to you about D&D for like an hour and a half.
It's a nice escape from reality.
It's very much keeps me going on rough days when I'm like, oh god, I have another 4 hours of work, and I like look, I was like, oh, but it's a Saturday. That means I have the podcast later. Oh, okay. I have something to hang on to.
No, yeah. Same. Yeah, it's a nice. Again, it's my sneaky second dose of D&D in the week when we play once a week, and then I also get to have the podcast, and I'm like, I get 2 doses of D&D.
Ooh, does that mean this is my third dose? Ooh.
It does, yeah. You're a bit of an addict. I've been talking to you about that.
I'm fully D&D vaccinated. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh god, no, I'll say not relevant. Never mind. Just stupid joke that came to mind. But yeah, no, it's been a fun week. I got to DM yesterday. We got to play your game again this week as well, and we started off our pretty much what seems to be like our next big kind of arc or mini arc.
Yeah. It's definitely ties into some stuff. I got to do a good dungeon crawl, which I haven't done in a while.
Yeah.
I think the last proper one I did was the well.
Yeah. No, I think didn't we do one for like the first layer of Endlicon?
Sort of, yeah. I didn't have that as thoroughly mapped out as the well or as this one, but it's been fun because I actually got to see previously when we did dungeons we play in person, so I just kind of describe it to you, but now we're doing it on Roll20, and I get to use the cool Fog of War feature.
Yeah.
Where when you guys step into a room, I'll draw out your line of sight and stuff like that, which I think it's a really, really cool tool. So I had you solve a puzzle, a little word puzzle, and then I had you go up against a lightning gem trap, and then you fought some elven rebels. Did quite well. Kind of got in a bit of a kill box situation because you were coming in through this really narrow drain in through it, and they all had like bows and could fire arrows 3 times in a turn. So you guys were just in this narrow corridor, just being peppered with arrows over and over and over again, which was pretty hectic. But you came out on top. You got a fair bit of damage. I think you took some decent hits. Maybe not you. I'm pretty sure Wabu took a couple, but he has resistance, so he was kind of fine.
Yeah.
And then I think Aerith took a good few, and he doesn't have a lot of health points.
Yeah.
And likewise, I think Arkham took 1 or 2 as well.
Wabu's just like incrementally inching closer to the point where he's literally too angry to die, and I'm here for it. I'm so here for it. Like
that zealous barb. Tell you, anyone listening out there looking for a good combination, class race combination, Turtle Zealot Barb. That is some lethal stuff right there.
Particularly when you start strapping weapons to every limb it has.
He's quickly becoming like, it's like the Wabu has a similar plot to Final Fantasy 15, where he's just on a quest to get more guns, and well, not more guns, more weapons. He's like, I already have 5 swords, but I'd like 8 more.
Do you know what? I can't follow that logic.
No. So yeah, that's going well. And like I said, at the end of the session, you guys have only been halfway through, so I have some cool stuff planned for the remainder of that, which should be fun.
No, I actually really enjoyed the puzzle. It's been a while since we've had a good riddle, and thankfully
they're hard to come up with.
Yeah, Jesus, yeah, they're hard. You have to I always try and think along the theme, and then just make up like shitty word puns.
Yeah. Actually, here's an interesting one. Okay, I'm give me like 3 seconds there.
Ooh,
I'm gonna pull up. I have the riddle. I'm gonna call it out on the podcast. Anyone listening, it'll say if you want to challenge yourself. I'll call it out, and I'll wait until a little later on the podcast, and you can think about it and decide if you want to, or see if you're able to guess what it is.
Yeah.
I'm curious because I gave it to you, it took the 4v about 7.5, 8 minutes to solve. A lot of chin scratching. It took. I told Tara. Tara didn't get it, but she went down a similar path to you. She kind of gave up quite fast. She was like, she gave a couple of hints or a couple of guesses, and then she was like, "Just tell me what it is, and I'll tell you if it's good." And I was like, "Okay, that's all I'm looking for." And then I told it to my team in work because we were on a we don't use Zoom, but essentially a Zoom call. And as part of our weekly meeting, someone had a couple of puzzles that we tried out just for fun. And then I was like, "Oh, I had a thing in D&D this week. I'm curious if anyone on the team can get it." And Elaine on my team got it just like straight away. I put it up, and within a couple of minutes, she's like, "I'll take a guess," and she was the first person to guess. She's like, "I'll take a guess," and she got it immediately. So let me call this out. I'll call this out, like I said, and in a few minutes' time, I will. You guys can hear the answer. So the puzzle is: I have neither beginning nor end, but if one were to measure me, one would say that I am 8, as in the number after 7. Mortals know but a small part of me, and should they wait for me, they will certainly meet their fate. This was written on the door to the dungeon you guys are going into. So have a listen back to that. We'll come back in a few minutes. Martin, you had a good D&D session this week.
Yeah. We were talking about it just before we got into recording and decided probably be better to keep that. I possibly did the most evil thing I've done as a dungeon master this week.
I'm really curious because I don't know. You haven't told me many evil things you've done.
I've not done
I feel
a lot
like
of evil things.
Yeah. I mean, I try to avoid being the evil DM myself, but I know I've dabbled. I'm not about that player versus DM thing. But I am very much in the. I do very much believe that if there's a bad guy in the game, you need to play that bad guy out to their fullness. So if they think in the moment, I have this spell and I could do this and that would be evil, you kind of gotta follow through. Yeah. But I'm curious what you did that was so evil.
Okay, so there's 2 important pieces of context here. Probably about probably like 6 months ago at this stage now, or closing in on a year. Basically 2 of my players left and I got 2 new players. And as part of those 2 players leaving, one of them was a halfling rogue, and he was like, when he decided he was going to leave, he was like, make this as traumatic as possible for the rest of the group. So I had a shadow assassin stab him 4 times and kick him through a portal. And then he just disappeared. The assassin specifically came here to kill or incapacitate him and drag him back through the portal. So that happens, and they've only gotten like bare hints in it, but they've not really engaged with that particular quest line at the moment. They're kind of doing other things. And the last thing they did was save this the dragonborn home country Yosiryu from a pirate invasion, and they did this by defeating the pirate queen who was in charge of it, and she was a devout follower of Mirkir, the big bad from my game, and they're starting to brush up against him more and more now. And he's
like your darkness god, isn't he?
Yeah, he's the god of the void and darkness. Yeah. And basically, they're kind of brushing up against him more and more now because they're kind of more on the main story, what you'd call like the main quest line, I would say, in my D&D game. And they're kind of more on the track of that now and starting to really dig into that. And so he's become more and more aware of them as they've kind of thwarted various things, and they've become more aware that he's been behind the scenes in charge of a lot of the things that they've had to deal with over their time as a party together. So when they killed that pirate queen, they all heard him in his head being like, there will be consequences for killing one of my favorites. And you don't want to make that threat from a villain idly. So I was trying to think of I was trying to think of what I can do. So they were going on a ship next, so I had them attacked by a bunch of shadows, and do you know the Angry, that monster?
Yes. Yeah. Those are they
the Angry, the lonely. Yeah, the Sorrowsworn. Yeah.
Those monsters do not mess around. They are actually awful to fight.
So I had them attacked in the middle of the sea by the Angry and 3 shadows. And it was a tough fight, but they got through it.
You have a lot of Dexy characters in your party.
Yeah.
Shadows, when you're not a super buff character, shadows are really lethal.
Yeah, as soon as one person got hit by the shadows, and I was like, okay, you take this much necrotic damage, and then I'm gonna roll a d4. Okay, 3, you lose 3 points of strength. And there was just this moment, like slight silence. Where sorry, what? It was what now? And as soon as they realized that, and I was like, and by the way, if your strength score hits 0, you're not strong enough to breathe, and you will die. And then I will say it was fair play to my party, because as soon as they heard that, the shadows did not last long.
Yeah. I like when, see, like there's sometimes when I feel like I've done something in an encounter, something happens, and then like, I don't know. We'll say, for example, someone goes down. They're on death saves. If someone doesn't immediately, even if they're not a healer, if they don't at least run over and try to stabilize the person, or at least at the very least they know the cleric is going to do that next turn, that's a big red flag for me. I'm like, no. Like there's urgent things happening. Don't just be like, I hit it with my sword. Like there's big things happening, and like that to me is a big thing. Oh, the shadows are our biggest threat. Focus on the shadows. Like sometimes, and when people don't do that, I'm like, well, look, at this point, if you guys die, it's off. It's out my hands. The blood's on my hands because you didn't focus on the thing.
Yeah. So the angry is particularly fun, because if it takes damage, if it has taken damage in the round before its turn comes up, it gets advantage on its attack roll, and its attack does an additional like 3d12 psychic damage.
Yeah.
So it hits hard. It nearly took out one or two of my spellcasters in like a turn, just from like 2 good solid hits. But eventually they beat that anyway, and then they landed, and then they ended up teleporting back to another city they've been to. They kind of did a few things, met up with a few NPCs, and kind of were like, okay, this is the quest line we're engaging with now. There's a giant invasion of this continent. We're going to go to that continent. We're going to deal with that, because that's where 2 of my players are from. And they're like, okay, we've that done. Do you know what? We'll go and we'll get some drinks. And I was like, oh, you're going to the low end place, the usual place you go. Or not the low end place, was it? No, the low end place is your game, damn it.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I didn't say anything. I thought maybe you named the bar the same thing just for like, I don't know, continuity or something.
No, sorry, it's called the Parting Glass.
Oh yes, yeah. You brought that up before.
Yeah. I was like, yeah, we're going to go to that. I was like, all right, cool. And basically, as they were going there, they have to go through all these narrow streets, because it's in the sort of less well-off part of town. And so it was 2 assassins, 2 thugs, and it was 3 assassins and 2 thugs. One of the assassins was their friend Osram, who had been kidnapped. But what they didn't know was that he had been killed, then revived as an undead, and basically sent to hunt them down. So they go through the whole fight. They take out all the others. They're in a group of 4. Going there. I have basically, there's thugs on the road. They stop them. Look, there's a toll for this road. You gotta pay whatever gold, silver to do it. Then my druid Mandra immediately started being like, I will fuck you up if you do not leave right now. Like, go, leave now. It is not the time to be messing with us. and I was just like, oh yeah, no, they're not intimidated, because the thugs know that there's 3 assassins coming. Like, so they're not intimidated. And I was like, okay. And I was like, all right, they're here. There's an assassin coming this way from an alleyway. There's an assassin coming this way from an alleyway. And there's an assassin on the roof back behind them with a bow.
Right.
So the thugs are just distracting them. And right as it's just not working for Mandroy, my Bloodhunter Tharson goes, I'll handle this. And he just goes hybrid form and like wolfs out. Okay. And I was like, yeah, that certainly works. The thugs look absolutely terrified, and right as you finish your hybrid transformation and you can see the terror in their faces, you feel an arrow land right between your shoulder blades. And that's where that session ended, and then the next session we picked up with the fight. But throughout the course of the fight, I knew if I put an enemy on a rooftop, that my rogue gunslinger Arandir would undoubtedly be the one to go up on the roof after it.
Right, okay.
And so engaged a duel across 2 separate roofs between a man with a pistol and a magic trident versus his undead halfling friend, who he didn't, who's got he's a magic rapier and a magic bow. But
is this do they know it's their friend at this point?
All of the assassins wear skull face masks with abyssal runes etched into them. So like
Okay.
they go the whole fight going back and forth, damaging each other. He gets in a few really really good shots with his gun, and then he basically blows a chunk out of his left shoulder, blows a chunk out of his right shoulder, and then like it like crits him in the core. Like I said, it leaves like a big gaping wound here, one up here and one up here. And then eventually he kills him, and he's like, I was like, how'd you want to do this? Like, I'm gonna. He used he's a chain of returning. He had the trident shift into its short sword form, and then basically like swung it and like threw it at him to get the final blow. And he said he wanted to join the dots, so like slash through here, through the center and up. And I was like, yeah, that's no problem. I like describe in detail. I was like, you raise tie binder above your head, swing it. You can hear going as the blade like chops the air as you swing it over. All your force, you throw it forward, it whips through the air in a spiral, cutting a spiral pattern from here to the center of the chest, right up around the shoulder and catching the back of the neck, and he just falls over dead on the ground. And I had said during the fight that when they were close enough, he could see this thing's eyes through the mask, and its eyes were weird in that they looked like normal blue eyes, but all of the white part of the eye was just like riddled with all these burst red blood veins, burst blood vessels.
Right.
Just being really weird looking. And yeah, end of the fight comes, they kill everyone else. Gets a few real hairy moments, like a couple of people nearly get dropped. And yeah, eventually I'm like, okay, so what's the plan now? What are you doing now? Like, okay, we're going to get all the bodies together, and we're going to search them. And I was like, okay, who's searching who? And Orander goes, I'll search the halfling. And I'm like, yeah, no bother. Because he searches him, he searches him, he doesn't take the mask off. But he searches him, he finds this gear, and it's like, he described this like gnarled, like wicked looking bow with like iron bands on it and iron spikes sticking out of it, and that he also finds on him this like black iron rapier with like a twisted, the blade is twisted into a spiral, and it's like completely covered in dried in blood. And he finds that in him, and then eventually he goes, I'm going to take the mask. And I was like, okay. I was like, I said, yeah, you reach down, you grab the mask, and you don't realize at first because you're distracted by these like really strange eyes that you were looking at, and then you get a good look at the face. You see the skin is like whitish and kind of clammy. It's got some grey blue splotches all over it, and it's bearded. I was like, and because the eyes are so distracting, and it's been a while since you've seen him, and then he just goes, Osram, and I was like, and he was like, I just cut my friend in half. Oh my god.
Oh man, that yeah, wow. And the thing about D&D players is they so often go absolutely ham on the bad guys that they're fighting, that in a situation like that they're almost guaranteed to be like, you say, how do you want to finish the fight? How do you want to finish off the last guy? And they go, oh, I cut him right up the middle of his body, and I slit his throat, and I do all this stuff. And so, like, in a situation like that where it's actually their friend, that's pretty messed up, man. You're a pretty sick individual.
To be fair, I'm not done yet. To be fair,
okay.
To be fair, now, he was undead. He didn't actually kill his friend. His friend was gone. It was just the meat puppet that looks like his friend.
Right.
But like, afterwards, then they're checking over the body, and when Orander was checking over the body, he didn't roll particularly high. He only rolled like a 15, I think. Right. But I had a thing set where it was like 13 to 16. This is what you see, and then a 17 plus. So I said when my blood hunter looked him over, because he wanted to check him to see if he could be sure that, because he said it looked like, so I was like, the way he looks, he said, it sounds like you're describing on death, and he wanted to check him to see if he could realize if it was undead. I was like, yeah, you're absolutely certain that he was undead. It was an undead that Orander killed, not actually Osram. And then while he was checking, I said that these like they basically wear these like strangely like glass black assassin robes with like abyssal runes over them, and the skull mask with the abyssal runes, and they had like a neckerchief that comes up to like here, up to about mid-mouth, up to about mid-face. So he said he took that out. I said he like reaches out and takes that off while he takes it off, and while he's inspecting to get a better look at the skin and stuff. And right at the hollow of Osram's throat, in like a really fine hand, are carved the words, "Even broken tools have uses."
Okay. Yeah, no, you're really fucked up.
Yeah, it
That's
was
that's some
that
dark stuff.
that session ended on a bit of a bummer.
That
Yeah.
is that's pretty dark.
Yeah, I don't do it often, but it's there.
But I mean, like, here's the thing, though. I mean, like, that's obviously you. A god of the void and evil and darkness and stuff like that. When you mess with higher powers, evil higher powers, you can expect a bit of a clapback if should you cross them, you know.
Yeah, I was like I want because they've kind of gotten away with the skin in their teeth a few times from like smaller interventions from him that I've put in the campaign when he was less directly opposed to them. Like they were
Mm.
directly opposing him, but he was like working through an intermediary. Whereas now they're like just like now he's just like pissed and he's very aware of who they
Mm.
are. And yeah, so he's just I'm just gonna mess with people. And I was like, what's the most messed up? I was like trying to think of like what'd be like a messed up thing he could do to kind of like just put a bit of fear into them, and kind of really like reinforce them as a threat. And I was like, without just like outright fucking just killing someone, just like he appears and just goes disintegrate and someone's like one of the party members is dead. Like that without doing that, I wanted to kind of put that level of but like engagement, but also kind of like resentment of like I wanted them to hate him. You know?
I think okay, you just talking about the disintegrate thing reminded me of one of the probably the most evil thing I've done, at least in recent memory. Which is you guys were in a town called Caspier, and you were trying to get in with this crowd called the Crimson Corsairs,
Yeah.
who are a pirate bunch. And I forget his name. They have an admiral who is like basically one of the highest ranking people in the entire organization. He'd be like a thieves guild boss guy, you know. But he's like one of the most ruthless. He's like Tuco in Breaking Bad in terms of just how like he'll do anything. He does not care. And I kind of modeled him mostly off of Negan from The Walking Dead. And
Yes, I remember this guy.
it was you three and one other guy who were like who were being recruited. And you didn't know this fourth guy, right? So I was planning this whole bit where just so you would see in a very Negan way how ruthless this guy was, he'd walk around and he'd look at each of you, and you were like warned extensively before going in there: do not speak out of turn, do not speak without being spoken to, do not be disrespectful. By he's one of his lieutenants, and he was like, "I'm serious, my boss does not mess around. Don't do that," you know. So he walked and he looked at Arkham, or he looked at Wabu first, I think, and then Mike, being Mike, had some smart mouth stuff to say, but I think I had him roll something like like just general charisma, and I'm like, okay, you pull it off in an entertaining enough way that he doesn't immediately beat your brains out. Um, and then he moved on to onto Arkham, and he's like, "You're a bit small," and he's like, "I can do magic stuff," and he's like, "Okay, that's helpful, that's fine." And then he looked at you, and you're obviously this big barbarian. He's like, "Now you're the kind of guy I like to cut of. You know, you got I got your spear, your shield. You look like you can handle yourself. I can definitely get behind having someone like you here." And he said something then that was kind of like, intimidating or trying to be intimidating. And he asked you, could he borrow your spear? No, sorry, I'm getting mixed up. There was a guy, a fifth guy, who was really nervous and shaky and like didn't seem like he should be here at all. And he brought that guy forward and had him stand out in front of everybody. And then he asked you for your spear. And what I was going to do was he was going to like hold the spear like he was going to throw it at this nervous guy. And actually, he was going to throw it into the other guy's chest and kill him stone dead, because that guy was a guard from the town who was trying to
Okay.
infiltrate as well. And I was planning on him being like, seeming like he's gonna kill this dude, actually killing the other dude, as a complete mindfuck. And then you refuse to give him your spear, and then I'm like, this guy's not gonna take no for an answer when it comes to this. He asked you for your spear. It's more like less asking, more give me your fucking spear. So you refused again, and he came right up and stared you down right in your face. And then he just said, Karnak. And I described you hearing crackling electricity sounds behind you, and you thought his lieutenant, who was a hobgoblin caster, was going to electrocute you or something like that. And I think you would have been perfectly fine with taking the damage and stuff like that. Actually, I had him cast a lightning bolt on Arkham, who was next to you instead.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really messed up. I was like, oh, I'm not going to hurt you to punish you. I'm going to hurt your friends to punish you. You know, which is way more. It's exactly what Negan did when he first showed up. Rick talked out of turn and was resisting him and stuff like that. So he killed two of Rick's friends in cold blood. And he's like, this is what happens if you don't do what I say. And he's a lunatic. He's an absolute lunatic. But that was definitely I could have killed Arkham. You guys were low enough level that a lightning bolt could have taken him out.
Again.
I think, I could be wrong. I think maybe, did you have to stabilize him? At the very least, it dropped him. It dropped him to a scary low hit points.
Yeah, it dropped him to like single digit hit points.
Yeah. So, and he doesn't have a lot to begin with. Like, no. So, you know, it was. Yeah, that was definitely the most evil thing I've done, I think, maybe ever in the campaign. But again, when I was emulating Negan as a character, that's just where my mind went. I'm like, oh, I'm not going to punish you. I'm going to punish him.
Yeah, sometimes you just got to be a little evil to get to give the villain some teeth.
You know what? It kind of worked, because as soon as you guys got out of there, you were like, we're never fucking going back there as long as we live. You guys were like, we're leaving town. We're gone. We're done. Let's go.
I was just more like, why are we fucking helping these people? They're just assholes, and we have no ties to this place. The only tie we have to these pricks is the fact that we keep coming back when they tell us to. It's like they have no way to fuck with us if we just leave. Let's leave and do important shit.
Yeah, I think at that point you had gotten word from the other town you were in previously about some stuff that was going on. So I think you were already looking to leave, and you'd already done a couple missions here anyway. So you felt like, I guess you felt like you had, you know, you got your fill of this particular town. We have other things going on elsewhere. We'll go back there and get that stuff sorted out.
Yeah, but
yeah,
that was fun. Fight Pit was in that town as well, I believe, wasn't it?
Was indeed, yeah.
Yeah.
Run by, I believe his name is Krieger.
Yeah, Krieger.
It was a dwarf with her metal arm.
Yeah, the first taste of a fight club in that game that now Wabu has been pursuing for about like 4 or 5 levels now.
Canonically, the only other fight club he found was Fight Club the musical in the theater in our most recent town, which came out in the fall, was the fall production. Yeah. And now you're well into winter, and all the posters are faded and worn on the walls.
As soon as I saw that, all that popped into my head is literally like, we're like, oh, Fight Club, isn't it? It's like the musical, and it's
I think I had a roll investigation, and I'm like, you see a sign that says Fight Club, and as you go up and you tear back some posters that are half covering it, you see at the bottom the musical.
I just love the idea of like Wabu walks in, like watches the whole musical, is like 0 out of 10, not enough fighting or clubbing for my liking.
Yeah.
I just like the thing that popped into my head was do you know that bit in The Simpsons where it's like they're in the mall and Otto walks out of a place called Stoner's Palace and he's like, dude, that is flagrant false advertising.
Yeah. That was exactly it. I thought of that I actually thought of that back in the previous town. And I was thinking to myself, I want to use that joke. I want to wind Mike up with that joke. So I hung on to it until you got to the next place.
Yeah, that was pretty sick. But, oh man, I love it. I absolutely love stuff like that. But
Martin, oh wait, you have a segue. What's your segue?
I was just going to say, speaking of needing to get a little evil sometimes.
Mine was going to be, speaking of evil. Yeah, God, that works. Yeah.
Today we're going to talk about demons. Which is why we're coming to you today from a pentagram made of candles, which is the traditional way of summoning demons in most folklore. But yeah, demons are like such like an evocative and like powerful kind
of.
Well,
specifically, we're looking at fiends in general,
yes,
right?
Sorry, yeah, fiends.
Both demons and devils. Yeah.
It's a bad habit I have of just saying demons when I mean fiends, because I know demons classify fiends or devils.
I often do it myself. I have a feeling many times in this podcast will we mix up the words, those 3 words, fiends, demons, and devils. Just bear with us, people.
Yeah. It's probably going to happen a decent amount. But yeah, they're just such just between like their representation and like like literature, culture, media, folklore, history, everything like that. There's like such a rich ground to kind of like lay story seeds in. Like I actually only thought of it to come up to thought of it to think about demons today, because like just for like the last 3 weeks I've been like, what if we made a world where like the seven deadly sins were like seven demon lords, and they each rule the territory of the world, and it's already like subjugated, and the players are like part of the like mortal resistance trying to overthrow the demon lords, and they have to do it one at a time, and it's like. And like they're all done over the seven deadly sins, and as the sin gets greater, the demon lord gets stronger. So like gluttony is a lot weaker than like wrath.
Yeah, yeah. Or like, yeah, I do like that idea that you could like, it's already post-apocalyptic. There was maybe a different adventuring party
Yeah,
who tried to stop the summoning of the demon lords or the devils or whatever, and then they lost. So now you're dealing with the fallout of that other adventuring party that failed.
yeah. I like not so much like apocalyptic is the way I was viewed. They're almost more like demons have like colonized the mortal plane almost. In
Oh,
that like
okay.
in that like they're not like destroying things, because like fiends, I say demons, but like fiends in particular are like
Hmm.
they're evil, but they're like lawful evil most of the time. They'll be like a
Well, it
lot of
depends on, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Devils are.
devils are, sorry, yeah, devils will be like lawful evil, because they will like follow a code. You can like make bargains with them, and
Yeah.
they will stick to the confines of the bargain you make and that sort of thing. And like there's just such a
For me, that makes them much more interesting personally. If I had a preference, it honestly, in terms of which ones I like the best, it goes devils, Yugolots, demons.
yeah, that's fair, that's fair. Yeah, I don't, I like, I suppose it's probably because it's like when something is like lawful and kind of like follows a code, or has like an organized way of doing something, it's probably a lot easier to like embody that as a DM and kind of like work out how that would happen. Whereas with like demons, because they're literally just like chaos embodied, like okay, I guess they'll run to the nearest wall, piss on it, and then set a cat on fire.
Yeah, exactly. It's just chaos. Like, I mean, I feel like there's definitely something to be admired about demons as well in their chaotic nature, because like whereas maybe I feel like I was thinking about it earlier on, right? So like obviously both sides are evil, but one is lawful evil and one is chaotic evil. One wants to build something. The
Yeah,
lawful side wants to build a regime or a hierarchy or something that is orderly and makes sense. It's evil,
yeah,
and maybe there'll be people at the bottom who are maybe slaves or something like that. And so it's an evil system, but they want to build a system. Whereas the other side of that is the demons want to tear things down. They don't
yeah,
want to build something new. They just want there to not be the stuff that there currently is. And I feel like there's kind of a theme of like entropy with that. The universe gradually trying to wind down.
yeah,
Things just dissipate and level out. So I feel like there's something cool about that and demons and how they have a natural instinct. Again, even though demons are chaotic, it's almost like a law, because entropy is a law of physics. Demons have all laws to them. They are just obeying their own nature, which is to destroy or reduce things to nothing.
yeah, yeah. I think there's isn't it I can't remember which plane, which one of the hells it is, but like there's, I think it might be like Carceroy or Cania, I think maybe. But like it's like because the area like tends towards entropy, everything in there is like crumbling and eroding away slowly over time, and it's just kind of like worn and broken and ruined. Like it's just a cool idea, just that thing is like it's a whole area where like no matter what you do, it's like falling into ruin and it's slowly being destroyed, and this is always just that permanently like crumbling area. There's just something about that I like.
We talked about it a couple weeks ago when Van Richten's came out. There's a couple of domains of dread that have a similar theme to that, where things are decrepit and rotting in this persistent state of decay. And also, actually, we've used this in D&D before. You guys have been there in a previous campaign, but the Gaping Maw has
Yes.
a very similar setup where it's a jungle. It's like a really dense rainforest, and upon like first look, it looks like it's green and lush and stuff like that. But actually, like if you grab a hold of a branch of a tree, the bark will kind of slide off it, and all
Oh,
underneath it is kind of slimy and decrepit, and there's loads of. It's like it's on the surface it looks fine, but it's underneath everything is rotten and decaying and stuff like that, and it's
oh,
uh
sorry, that I just when you said that thing about tree, I imagine what that would feel like when you like grab a tree branch and pull it down, and all of the bark just comes away in your hand in like a
have you
sticky.
seen that scene in Cabin Fever?
Oh God.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know why I'm mentioning this because it
Uh,
makes me cringe immensely. But it'd be a bit like that where it just slops off.
oh Jesus, that scene
Yeah,
where you want to shaving her legs.
that's the one.
Uh,
Ugh, ugh,
like
no,
why would you keep going?
that's the thing. She kept going. Oh, that fucking movie, man.
uh,
But we won't. That's okay. Let's not go down to Cabin Fever because I do not need to be thinking about that.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like the Gaping Maw has a cool. There's a lot of them that have a thing like that, and I think the Gaping Maw being part of the abyss and therefore a chaotic realm.
Hmm.
The idea of things, even things that look like again lush and full of life, are actually still rotten or awful
Yeah.
below beneath the surface.
And it's not all just jungle as well, though, isn't it? It's jungle, and then they have like it's just like barren salt flats and like this like horrible like brackish water.
Yeah, like the Gaping Maw jungles themselves border this enormous sea, and then the entire sea is briny, like incredibly salty water.
Yeah.
And then there's the two towers, the two spiral towers out in the middle of the water, which is where Demogorgon makes his home.
Yeah. Like I love that as well. That they're not only do these like the like I love that there's like a different layer every time, and then they also have like a different like demon lord that lives there. So like
Yeah,
for that part of the maw, it is Demogorgon, like the two headed like squid arm ape headed monster.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, not quite what he looks like in Stranger Things.
No, do you know what? I don't know which is worse to be honest. The one in Stranger Things definitely has creepy factors to it.
I
With the big flower head, like that,
Yeah,
and like rows and rows of teeth.
yeah.
But
I think
like, sorry, go on.
I think Demogorgon is creepier, like in terms of like
As in
you're like
real D&D.
yeah like real
Yeah,
D&D like like Demogorgon when you look at him in like the picture I think like the way it's drawn and the art for it is more like unsettling. Like you look at it and you're like that's just like you were looking at it like there's something not quite right about that's just wrong kind of when you look at it. And then
there's
the
something
Stranger
about
Things
taking
one
animals.
looks like the Stranger Things one I was kind of just skeezing it it just looks like a super predator.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ugh.
I mean, again, I think both definitely have value, but I think you're right. The one there's something about I don't know. There's something about the one in Stranger Things that because a it's just a monster. It
Yeah.
just looks like a monster. Whereas and I think our minds know that, but then you look at Demogorgon as he is in actual D&D, and you see two like simian heads, and then four tentacles coming out of shoulders that should have arms, and scales and fur which normally don't go together,
Yeah.
and all this other stuff, and you're like, because I know what all the animal components there should look like and everything, and I know that the behavior of it is wrong, is something unsettling about it.
Yeah, it's just that combination of elements that aren't supposed to go together and don't look
Yeah.
natural to just but like done well enough to like really put you off. I like that. I'm a really big fan of that. There's also I don't know how I forgot about it because it's really really cool. But the demon web, which is a Lulz domain.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It
Do you know what? In all my note taking earlier on, I did not even write down a single thing about love, and I don't know how I missed that.
Oh yeah, but like I had entirely forgotten about it to be honest because we don't really like Lolth hasn't come up a whole ton in either of the campaigns that we played with you, and she doesn't come up a whole ton in mine. But like yeah, like an entire hell plane that's just this giant web with like rooms made out of all like just these like bound together like tubes of web. And like then like deep below then is where Lolth actually lives, and she's like waited upon by all her like demonic handmaid or like demon spider handmaidens and all that.
Yeah.
And like just that idea, it's like if like as soon as I read that in my head I saw like imagine like Shelob's cave but it's the size of Mordor. is like what
More,
came.
actually, yeah, that, and like as just as labyrinthine
Yeah.
as Shelob's cave as well would be really really cool.
Yeah, it's just, but yeah, but just that idea of like, no, there's not even land here. Like everything here is made out of Loth's web, and she knows everything that happens.
Uh, just okay. We'll try not to deviate too much because we have to talk about demons and devils and whatnot. They announced in just this week that they are expanding on the lore officially. Wizards of the Coast are
Of the
expanding
Drow,
on the lore
yes.
of Drow and Dark Elves.
Yeah, I know. I'm actually like really excited to see what they do with it in terms of like the
So
direction it takes.
there's been a lot of kickback from people because obviously historically Drow have been the evil elf race. There, where you have wood elves, high elves, and Drow. Of that trifecta, one of them is the evil race, and it's Drow, and that's because previously in the lore, all Drow were kind of followed Lolth
Yeah.
into the Underdark, and then she corrupted them, so they're treacherous and they don't like each other and they hate the surface world and stuff like that. And like I've never had a problem with it before. It is somewhat problematic to have an inherently evil race, and wizards have been trying to deviate from that, and I understand why, and I think it makes sense as well because, and it's something I've done in this current campaign is I've made it so that there's no race that is inherently evil. I actually have a lot of regular elves that are like wood elves and stuff like that. They're evil in my world. They're bad people. Likewise, I have a lot of other things like I think I've put in hobgoblins and a couple other races that are characters that aren't expressly evil as well. They're good people. I think that makes more sense and that's more like real life. But they've added two. We won't get off it too much, but they've added two new versions of Drow. So they still have the same one. That's the thing. I think I don't fully understand.
Yeah.
People are upset that they're changing it, but the thing is they're not changing it as much as they are expanding on it. And they're saying that there's two other subsets of Drow. One, and I can't remember the word for them. They had specific Elven words for them. But one lives in like the south, in like these really thick rainforests with a thick canopy that keeps the sun off them because they have daylight sensitivity. And again, they're kind of like I think they're illusionists or something like that, and they live in the jungle, but they're not bad people and they don't worship Lolth. And then there's another group that live in like glaciers and underneath the ice up
Oh,
in
I
the
like
north.
that. That's really cool.
It's nuts. Super. You should see the art for it as well. Ah, cool. But they're yeah, and again, they don't worship Lolth. They're a separate bunch of Drow. I think people's problem with it was that a lot of people had a problem because it supposedly undermined who Dritz was. He was meant to be the dark elf that went against the grain and broke that mold. And I still think he is though because he was still raised in a city where just because there's other dark elves that aren't evil doesn't take away from him. He was still an individual who was raised in a city full of evil people doing bad things, and he decided, no, I'm not going to be that, and he left. And so
Yeah.
I still feel like he has a great character arc and everything. I don't feel like that subtracts. I'm excited for this new lore. I'm actually looking forward to new types of and diversity in the culture of dark elves.
And look, if you want Ritz to be special, there's an easy way to do that. You make the society he grew up in evil rather than the race he is evil.
But that's the thing, and that's what it is. It's Mesobaranzan. I probably butchered the name there, but the Dark Elf city. That's where he's from. That's the primary Lolth city,
Yeah,
and where any
exactly.
Dark Elves that come from there are typically evil. Not inherently, but typically just based on their upbringing and the society that they're part of.
Make the fact make the evil a cultural consequence or like a consequence of like personal belief rather than something someone is born with and can't change.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think the reason people are kicking off so much, just to close it out, is two things. You get one kind of person who just goes, I don't like change. You change something, like people like to be right, and when someone has known the rules for something a lot, if you change that and they can't just go, boom, this is what that is. People get tetchy about that, and they don't like to admit that. And then the other ones are the people who will look at this and they're really almost not worth addressing because there's a contingent of them in the D&D fandom as well, where the people who look at this and go, oh, this is SJW bullshit, get it out of my game, without even actually reading it or thinking about it. And to be honest, that's as much addressing as I want to give that crowd because those people aren't worth talking about.
Let him go. Cast Disintegrate, 9th level.
Yep. Banishment, get off my plane.
Yeah. Yeah, as for the first crowd, I get it. I get when you feel like you've known the rules or especially if you've been reading the Dritz novels for 20 plus years, and you feel like you know everything
like,
about that, and you're a big fan. I can understand kind of feeling like, oh, now I have to learn this other stuff. That's life, man.
Yeah.
That's life. My dad never thought that something like the internet would have to exist, but he had to fucking learn how it worked. Okay.
Yeah. But like also like the fact that the role playing game D&D has changed its rules and its lore around Drow does not invalidate what the Dritz books have done, even though they are like official D&D things and tied to the D&D lore. Like nowhere in the player's handbook does it go, all right, so Dritz did this. You know what I mean?
And only that. Yeah. And if you don't do it that way, you're playing the game wrong.
Exactly, right? So like, also it's D&D. If you want to make, I wouldn't encourage it, but if you want to make the Drow, all of them evil, all of them super evil, just cackling villains, murdering babies and clubbing
all doing this and just laughing maniacally on a constant basis,
squeezing all of the toothpaste out of the end of the tube and just laughing as it. So like breathing on mirrors, not wearing masks, that kind of thing. If you want to make them all evil,
just the worst.
If you want to make them all evil, it's your goddamn game. You can make that choice. I would not encourage it, and I don't think it's a good choice. But it's your game. You can make that choice.
That I think that's the thing as well, is because whenever they decide they're doing, they've also moved away from, we'll say for talk's sake, they're using ability score increases that are specific to races.
And they read Vistani in Van Richten's as well.
Exactly, yeah. So they're doing some things and they're making some changes to D&D. Here's the thing, though. It's not like D&D is a video game where when they patch something, the way it used to work doesn't work anymore. You can just go by the old rules. Again, I don't encourage it, and I would like to think people are open-minded enough that they're like, hey, these changes are in place for a reason, you know, to not associate race with a certain alignment and stuff like that. But at the same time, no one is driving to your house at 8 o'clock on a Friday when you and your friends are just about to sit down and start playing. Like, Chris Perkins isn't going to kick in your door and go, make sure some Drow are good. Like, no one's going to police you on this. If you don't like it, you don't like it, fine. That's your own prerogative and your own issues to deal with. But no one's policing you on this. If you don't like the new lore, I don't know. Go write your own book.
I just had a vision of Jeremy Crawford and Chris Perkins in aviators kicking in the door of someone's house with like M16s drawn, going, "Don't type Astro! What are you doing? Stop it!"
I just pictured him kicking at the door and just holding up the a player's handbook like that, just going, "No."
And they're like,
it clearly says this.
The guy like holds it and he's like, "No, I'm gonna make Drow evil," and then like Jeremy Crawford just pulls a magnum from his belt, shoots the gun, and goes,
"Buy book."
No, it's been errated.
Oh. I immediately thought of the McBain thing. Hey McBain, in this department we go by the book. By book.
Oh god. Yeah, that's what he's like. You can't be using that canon. We should probably actually get back to talking about demons though.
We've talked a stifling amount not about demons this podcast so far.
I know. But just in terms of actually, I thought what could be fun to talk about is there's like a long history of association with like demons and D&D and specifically and like the hobby, and like they've always been nearly always been an element of what's in like the the D&D bestiary from the very beginning, and that has not always been necessarily beneficial to D&D's public image.
I know where you're going with this.
Yeah. Conor, I'm guessing you're familiar with a term called the Satanic Panic.
I prefer to call it the idiot panic, but yeah, sure.
Yeah. For those who don't know, back in the 80s, specifically in the US, there was a movement amongst evangelical types to ban D&D because it was teaching kids to summon demons and worship false gods and all this kind of stuff. But that became known as the Satanic Panic, and like they give a bit of a background as to why it happened, because some of this is actually some of this is very sad. But some of this is absolutely hilarious. So I'll try and tread the line here. So the origins of it really happened back in, I think it was 1979. There was a lad in a college in America who basically had a severe mental health episode and disappeared. He basically was having a severe mental health episode and disappeared into the utility tunnels under his college. I think he came back out a few weeks later, but basically I think it was his parents blamed D&D for that. They said that his disappearance was related to D&D because he was getting involved in Satan worshipping because there were demons in the monster manual. But that kind of didn't really pick up too much steam. But shortly after that, there was a woman called Patricia Pulling, whose son also very troubled. A very sad case. He had lots of pre-existing issues, but he committed suicide. And she full on laid the death of her son at the feet of Dungeons and Dragons and Wizards of the Coast. She sued the school, saying that her son died because of a curse that was cast on his character and on him during the D&D game, and that the principal was to blame for it, which they obviously didn't accept any responsibility for, and that was thrown out. She also sued Wizards of the Coast for it, saying that they were responsible.
But it wouldn't have been Wizards back then, wouldn't it? It would have been.
Sorry.
One second.
It's something Coast TSR.
TSR.
Yeah. So it's basically she sued TSR as well, saying that TSR were responsible for her son's death. Obviously, the judges took one look at the lawsuits and threw them both out immediately, saying they had no basis. But this didn't stop Patricia Pulling, and she went on to found a group called Bothered About Dungeons and Dragons, otherwise known as BAD, which was basically a group of mostly conservative evangelical parents and like preachers who were highly against D&D and were saying it was all kinds of demonic and satanic. And naturally, when all of those people say something is demonic and evil and satanic, as you can see in the 90s when they came after heavy metal music, that just makes people love it even more.
Well, that's the thing, and that's the thing I've never. Okay, there's two things I've never gotten about the Satanic Panic, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I should, to be fair, I actually didn't know about these individuals in particular.
I did some reading. There's a really good BBC article that I read about it.
So the mother who lost her son to suicide, that is very unfortunate. I can understand someone in their grief kind of just looking for somewhere to be angry or upset about. I get that, I really do. The mother whose son had a mental health episode and as a result, went into the tunnels and stuff like that. I don't know. Here's the thing. The whole idea that like D&D has demons in it, therefore by association it's somewhat demonic or somewhat satanic. It's so silly because you only have to crack the cover on any book and read the opening, introduction part to the player's handbook or anything like that. And they tell you, like, the premise of the game is you are a group of adventurers and heroes going off to fight the monsters and the demons and all the necromancers and stuff like that. Like, it'd be different if you were playing the game and it was something like, do you ever say Dungeon Keeper on PC?
I think so. Yeah. Where you're actually playing as the demons and stuff.
You play the monsters in that. It'd be very different if it was something like that, where you played the monsters, carving up farmers and all this other stuff. But you don't. You play the heroes. And you play holy warriors of the church, like paladins and stuff like that, and then you expel the evil. That's kind of the main premise. So I'm like, it's so obvious that these people don't even look at the materials that they're trying to say is bad, because you clearly don't know what you're talking about. If you just took the barest look at it, you'd be like, oh, so the objective is to kill the demon? Oh, well, that seems mildly Christian or something. I don't know, whatever.
Oh, yeah.
So like,
I believe from the article I read in it, I believe the big bugbear with it was that there was rites for summoning demons in the thing, which probably means like conjure elemental.
Yeah.
But you can like summon and bind demons in D&D.
You can, but here's the thing.
Yeah.
And it's the most important thing. It's fiction.
Yeah, exactly. That was
fiction.
That was pretty much exactly Gary Gygax and TSR's response when the lawsuit came in. It's fiction.
Yeah. Imagine strolling up to to Tolkien's estate and being like, "Hey, Tolkien, we don't like that you've brought orcs into the world and blah blah blah." And he's like, "So you've read my fictional book then? Okay, that's nice." Thank you
laugh, right? But this is a slight deviation, but it's on the point, so it's similarly related. I remember when I was towards the end of my time in primary school, they were doing like a school like talent show, charity fundraiser thing, and a kid wanted to do magic tricks on stage, and one of the priests kicked up a hell of a lot of fuss about it. Said it was evil.
What?
Said it was encouraging witchcraft and all that. Like it was in the local paper. It made he kicked up so much of a fuss about it. Like, and
Must have been a slow Wednesday.
and like, but like it happens time and time again. Like, as much as I hate to come to the defense of her, J.K. Rowling, the Harry Potter books multiple times have been accused of being like satanic or demonic, and like recently like an exorcist had all the Harry Potter books taken out of a Catholic school that he was working at or whatever, as like a teacher or a brother or something. I can't remember exactly, but yeah, he like, so like it happens. It still happens, and weirdly like there's still people like that who will just like anything that in any way has like, even has like a picture of like something that looks like a demon, gone. Like, do you know, I can't remember his real name. He's the man who plays Omen Dran for Acquisitions Inc. And I know his other handle.
Jerry Hulkins.
I thank you. I could only remember his other handle, Tycho Brahe or whatever. With Jerry Hulkins, I remember he was doing, I think he was doing like a one shot or an interview, and he was saying that when he was a kid, like the D&D books were not allowed in his house. No, that was satanic trash. And I think he said one time his mom found him with like a copy of like a player's handbook or a DM or the DMG, and like she like took him with her and burned the book in front of him.
Really?
Yeah, like there's still people out there like that.
Jerry's one of the more famous D&D players in the world.
Yeah,
good job, Mom.
Yeah,
that burning of the book, because burning books always works.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, that's how seriously. One thing.
How did she know that burning the book didn't activate
the
demonic ritual? Right? Maybe you have to write in the book and then burn it, and then it summons the demon out of the flames.
Hey, that's how. Yeah. There's that would be.
Maybe she should have read the book to make sure that wasn't what activated it.
I was only in that place to get directions about how to get away from that place. Yeah.
What's the Father Ted one when they're inside of the in the lingerie section in the clothes shop, and all it ends up being like 6 or 7 priests all in there, and one fella keeps going, "It's the largest lingerie section in Ireland, so I hear." But he says it like 5 times throughout the episode, and we're like, "You clearly did research, sir."
Yeah. Oh god, that's phenomenal. And when they find him, he's like just like touching up one of the mannequins, and they're like, "Oh, hello, Father."
Yeah.
Hello.
There's just very quickly, when you mentioned about because you brought it up kind of already, and in a couple different ways. You mentioned about like people when metal music first became a thing in the 80s and stuff like that, people were like hated it and they thought it was demonic, and were trying to get it banished and CDs burned and broke.
Do you know the explicit? Do you know like the explicit content tag that you see on CDs? So that was invented by the wife of Al Gore, Tipper Gore, back in the 90s. I think it might have been like late 80s or late 80s, early 90s, where basically her and a group of like essentially like a concerned parents group were blaming like
groups.
They were like blaming heavy metal for like Columbine and all this kind of stuff, and saying it was satanic. And they actually like took Dee Snider, the lead singer from Twisted Sister. Do you know? Yeah, you know this. They have like that.
I know Twisted Sister.
Yeah, but he went to court about it with them, and he just ruined them in court because he was just like, it's music. I'm not like where, you know, and they were like playing the records backwards and all this kind of nonsense.
Like your one who's like giving out about Monster Energy drinks, and she's like, and if you turn the can upside down and it says 666, which is the number of the beast.
Yeah, there's one of those about Rihanna, and he's like, and here she's impregnated by the Antichrist, and here again and again.
Oh man, it's so dumb. Like here again. Okay, so here's the thing, right? People and we brought up in a couple of different ways. You mentioned about people not liking metal music when it first came around, and how in a weirdly kind of tangential thing, people didn't like them changing the drow lore. People don't like change, right? But every generation has some form of this. When in like the 80s and stuff like that, probably a bit before the 80s, probably like the 70s, when television was a big thing, parents thought television would destroy society as we know it. Then it got to the 80s and 90s, and people were like, these video games will rot our brains and our children will be mindless drones. but it didn't. And then we got to like the 2000s, and it was like the internet will be the death of it's not the death of society. And now it's like, I guess mobile devices is maybe the new thing, or how connected we are via the internet. But again,
I have the
it
one
won't
for
be
the
the death of
2000s,
us.
and it's going to make you laugh. Do you remember when emos were going to take over the world and ruin society?
We tried, damn it, we failed.
I know. But do you remember there was like legitimate panic though? There was like legitimate like similar to the Satanic Panic about like emo culture and like all and like the and like kids listening to these music and like being encouraged to like cut themselves and things.
There was My Chemical Romance performed in I want to say in London, somewhere in the UK, but I think it was London. At some festival, or maybe it's just their own show. And I remember there was protests and stuff the days leading up to the concert and at the concert, because the Daily Mail wrote an article about how My Chemical Romance were like encouraging Satan, or again encouraging to hurt yourself or something like that. And then on stage, Jared Wade had a copy of the Daily Mail, the article in the front, and he had however many thousand people chanting "Fuck the Daily Mail, fuck the Daily Mail."
I do like Jared Wade.
He's a good guy. I like him. He's a good guy.
He's a good guy. But
yeah, I mean, like people just don't like change, and every generation has something where they think this newfangled thing is going to unravel society as we know it. And guess what? People just adapt over time.
Yeah.
Things change, but nothing the entire world doesn't fall apart. It's not fucking Skynet, okay?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that'd be a good point to close off our little chat about Satanic Panic. But I'll close it off with like a fun little fact. Have you ever heard of a movie called Mazes and Monsters?
I have not. Go on.
Mazes and Monsters is a film from around the same time. Written, it's based on a book of the same name, where basically the main character gets so into starts playing D&D, and the people he's playing D&D with are like Satanists, and he gets like so caught up in the game that he thinks the game is real, and he starts going crazy, and he's going around and doing all these crazy things. And like the end of it is literally like his friends coax him down off a ledge, and they're like, "Billy, it's not a game, it's real, you're gonna die." Billy is Tom Hanks.
No.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, no.
Yeah. It's on YouTube. The whole film is on YouTube, I believe. Like you can literally, like if you search Mazes and Monsters ending, you will see a scene of like Tom Hanks being coaxed off a ledge and being told that D&D isn't real. Everything's okay.
He is Robbie Wheeling is his name. Oh.
Yeah. But that was entirely.
Can we watch this for our movie night some night?
God, yes. As soon as we can be in each other's houses again, we'll get everyone around. We watch that.
4.1 on IMDb.
Oh, that's Jesus. That's about 3.9 too many, maybe.
Oh man, I so desperately want to meet Tom Hanks and only talk to him about this movie. Of his entire repertoire, of which I am a big fan, I only now want to discuss this with him. Also, how big are the minis they are using? They're like 6 inches tall.
I know. It's the whole movie is an unbelievable shit show, but like it's so cringe and 80s, and like they're summoning demons with dice.
This might be. Oh my god! If we watch this might be the single funniest movie we ever watch. Holy hell!
It's funny, all right.
Man.
Conor, I think it'd be cool if we could maybe have a quick chat about like demons in popular culture and like around the world, and like where you can draw like good inspiration for if you want to use like fiends or devils or demons or Yugolots. That's the other one, isn't it?
Yugolots are the neutral,
a
neutral evil faction.
Yeah, fiends, demons, or Yugolots in your game. There's lots of really cool ones you can draw from like all around the world, because pretty much every country has like a tradition of folklore where like there's like demons or evil spirits and how you deal with them. You're welcome for Halloween. That's how ancient Celts dealt with evil spirits.
Yeah, funny you mentioning Celts and stuff. Actually, something that was an American adaptation of Halloween was carving pumpkins.
Yes.
In ancient Ireland, they used to carve turnips, and if you want to go full scary Halloween, look at a carved turnip. It is unsettling.
I think it's particularly they're particularly like fucked up and unsettling because they like carve like individual like square teeth into them, and like they're all small and like worn and warped because it's like a turnip like this fucking big, and it's like they just. Oh god, they just look like evil old tiki men. Is anytime I look at them now,
they look like shrunken heads.
Yes, that's exactly what they look like. Actually, they look like shrunken heads, which I'd imagine was probably like the point, because they're like the thing with jack o' lanterns aren't scary. Like I turn out like when they like the modern ones, like traditional jack o' lanterns, they were carved to be like scary and off-putting because you were trying to scare away the evil spirits from your house.
You're trying to ward away bad spirits and demons and stuff. Yeah, that was the point of it.
Exactamundo, my friend. Exactamundo.
What's Is it Iha Samhain, isn't it?
Ihauna is Halloween. Yeah, Samhain is Halloween. Ihauna is Halloween night. Samhain is like the Halloween season.
There you go. Thank you. Got my wires crossed there. Irish wires.
That's fine.
My Irish is very, very bad. Very, very poor. So
mine is not great either. I used to be a lot better at it when I was younger. Cool. But yeah, just in terms of like like storytelling traditions and stuff, like all throughout like popular culture, throughout like the last couple of centuries, there are just so many really awesome tales that you can pull from for demons. Because like now, and speaking of demons here, I mean specifically the kind that make deals, and I'm gonna mix these up again. It's the
devils are the lawful ones. They're the ones who make deals with people. Yeah,
devils will make deals. And like that's even really about making a deal with the devil. Like it's infiltrated our everyday language. It's such a common trope in our storytelling. And immediately when I was trying, like, what could be some cool things to reference? Faust. The story of Faust, I think, would be a really cool. I've always wanted to do like a D&D character based on Faust. And
you're gonna have to fill me in here because I'm not totally familiar with Faust. I know the name.
It's the legend of Faust. He was an alchemist who sold his soul to the devil to overcome death.
Right. Okay.
He like made it.
So he was a warlock.
Yeah, pretty much. He's like a really famous. It's a really famous like opera. The opera of Faust.
Okay.
He's like a sorcerer, a wizard who summons the devil and sells his soul to the devil. I think to try and bring back bring one of his like loved ones. Oh, excuse me, bring one of his loved ones back to life.
Right.
And like that's just like such a good one, and that's actually where the first place where the name Mephistopheles is recorded.
Oh, so okay, yes, because I'm actually looking at him in the notes I have here, because he's in D&D currently.
Yeah.
Mephistopheles is the ruler of the 8th level, or the 8th layer of hell, which is Cania, which is like Icy Realm. He always seemed kind of interesting. I was reading up about it today, and he's like all about like magic. Actually, that makes sense because he's all about magical experimentation and stuff like that in his realm, which is probably drawn from the fact that Faust was an alchemist and sorcerer type person.
I love it because I love that because it's one story that has inspired both a demon lord in D&D and also Marvel's version of Satan, Mephisto.
Oh yeah. That's I mean, there's loads of that though. I mean, like actually, if you look at all culture, pretty much feeds into kind of superhero stuff. Like Thor is just Thor. Like they didn't even try that hard with that one. They read a book on Norse culture, and they're like hammer plus lightning plus guy. Yeah, sure, let's make that into a hero. Why not?
But that's why every like Marvel and DC have entire pantheons of like the Greek and Roman and Nordic gods because there's no copyright. So anyone can use
exactly. Them. Yeah, exactly. No one can tell you can't. You could very easily just. Ooh, actually, that's interesting. I wonder is that why? The Percy Jackson books are all about those kind of things. No one can tell you can't put a centaur in things. Centaur is an ancient mythical creature. Yep. You could make a whole thing about centaurs.
Yeah. Like it's because they exist. It's because they're not like they just exist as like a cultural myth, and there's no identified author, I guess. And also the length of time, so like there couldn't be any copyright.
Yeah, copyright wasn't the thing. The word copyright probably wasn't the thing at that point.
Copyratos.
Copyratos.
Yeah. Can you think of any like good demon stories from like either pop culture, like movies, films, TV, or like folklore that you can think of that might be like a good example for something that you could kind of like pull on for like inspiration, for like using demons in your campaign?
This is a really weird one. there's a show that used to be on E4 called Reaper.
Oh my god, I loved Reaper. It was great.
Yeah, that was a great show. And so basically, it's a guy.
That man was born to play Satan.
He was. Oh, he's great. Yeah. I'm gonna look up the name of the actor. So basically, it's a show about a guy who works in a hardware store, I believe.
Yeah. He basically works in Walmart.
Essentially, yeah. And then one day, a guy shows up and introduces himself to him, and he's like, the name of the guy is Ray Wise. That's who plays the devil.
Yeah.
So
he's just born to play Satan.
Yeah. Oh, he looks the part. He looks the part. So I think he shows up and he like kind of introduces himself, and then he's like, "Oh, I'm your actual father," and he's like, what? No, you're not my father. And then he goes home to his parents, and his parents are like, "Yeah, well, here's the thing. We couldn't conceive, so then we made a deal with the devil, and then he gave us you. So we raised you, but technically he is your dad." And then as a result, the premise of the show is that each episode, Sam must now find and capture various souls that have escaped hell from like I think one of the first episodes is a guy who was like a former firefighter who was like setting fires himself. Yeah. But then he has all these fire powers and he's just blasting and setting fires all over the city. So they managed to capture him. But that could be a very interesting premise for a warlock character where like, you sold your soul to me. Eventually you will join me in hell for all eternity, but until that time I need you to do these jobs for me. Yeah. You know, which is it's basically a warlock thing. He's basically Asmodeus.
Yeah, I was gonna say Ghost Rider as well. That's very Ghost Rider.
Very Ghost Rider as well. Yep.
Yeah, which somehow when I was writing up my list of like demons in popular culture and folklore and that you could draw on, I didn't include Ghost Rider, who's literally souls. No, like Ghost Rider is the spirit of vengeance. What gives him his powers is there is like an insane angel called I think it's Thanatos or Barton.
Insangel.
I'm gonna I think it might be like Vamatos or something like that, or Thanatos. It's something like Thanatos.
I think Insangel works better, but fine.
Sorry, I want to look this up with, but
you
like
should totally, if you get a chance, watch Reaper. It only has 31 episodes, and they're like 25-minute episodes. Good show. Easy watching, as I say. Don't think about it too much. And it's entertaining. I don't know if they probably got cancelled. I doubt they got a satisfying resolution to it. But yeah, they also have other things like what's this? Constantine comes to mind.
Oh yes, Constantine is so good. Mm-hmm. Constantine, I would go to Constantine, particularly the NBC one, the one they did after the movie when they did a TV series. Yeah. With a guy called Matt Ryan, who again,
he's really good. He's really good.
Born to play that character.
They even after his show was cancelled, they brought him back in Arrow for a couple episodes for a small arc there. He's honestly, he gets the
Zarathos is the name. It's the name of the. It's like a literal vengeance spirit. Like it's a demon of vengeance that is like, but it's a demon, but it's like an angel that went insane in hell, and that's
like Zariel.
Yeah, exactly like Zariel in Avernus, and that's what's bound into the rider and gives him his powers.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I've always I didn't realize this because I don't read Ghost Rider, but you've described it to me before how he does a thing where his head will turn to a skull and he will stare into your eyes, and then if you is it if you have remorse or something about your sins?
It's called the penance stare. So like he literally will like he's like crazy strong, so he literally like grab someone, hold them, and like stare into their eyes. And they will feel all the pain and evil they've inflicted on anyone else in the world, provided they're capable of feeling like guilt or remorse or.
Because you told me about someone he tried to do it on, and they had no remorse for any of the horrors they caused. Who was it?
The Punisher.
Oh yes, which is just brilliant because obviously he murders a lot of people in really gruesome ways, but he feels justified in doing it because they are bad people.
Yeah. Hilariously, Ghost Rider also doesn't like Daredevil because he dresses up like a devil and he's not actually a devil.
Or does he feel like it's like some weird backwards
he just doesn't like
cultural appropriation?
Yeah, he just doesn't like him because he dresses up like a devil. That's literally Joe does like stupid small things between superheroes. But there's a really cool story. It's a modern one where it kind of draws in like it's like an urban legend of someone selling their soul. It's really famous actually. It's about concerns a famous jazz musician called where have we gone? Robert Johnson. So Robert Johnson was he was this musician in I think it was like the 30s or maybe the 60s, in the US, and he wasn't a particularly good musician. Jazz was really big at the time, so probably like the 30s, I'd say. He wasn't a particularly good jazz musician, and everyone could he played the local clubs, and everyone kind of knew he wasn't really going to go anywhere with it. But he could play, but he wasn't anything special. Then he disappeared for a year, and he came back, and suddenly he was amazing. He was like so good, people could not believe it was the same person. And the myth goes that Robert Johnson went to the crossroads at midnight and summoned a crossroads demon and sold his soul to the devil for jazz. Which, if that isn't the best way to create a backstory for your bard,
if that isn't the most ironically metal story about a jazz performer.
I absolutely love it. They actually did an episode of Constantine based on that story, where there's like a record that had recorded that had like demonic sounds on it, and it kept just showing up in people's houses, and when you played it, people, like, horrible shit would happen to you. Which is another thing actually that you can bring in with demons, is like cursed items and curses and all. And you can play. Like, the great thing about demons is it doesn't just open up like the demon the demon toolkit or the demon toy box for you to play with. You have everything that comes along with it, right? So, and even in the book they have stuff like where are we going? I had it open here, but they've like a list of things that can happen with demons, and it's absolutely cracked. I love it.
I actually have it here. Mordenkainen's is probably your best resource for demons.
Definitely. It's got a lot of info about the Blood War in it that's really, really good as well.
Good info on the Blood Wars. It has all the sub-races of Tiefling based on which fiendish patron started their bloodline. It's got, what does it have? It has some stuff for, like, if you're putting cultists of that particular group in, it gives you some spells that would be associated with said cultist or with that particular archdevil, and then it also gives you some once a day abilities as well that you can assign to them, which is really, really cool. It's just like let's see now, let's see if I can find some.
I'm trying to find what I was looking at earlier, but like they list out like all these messed up things that demons can do.
Oh, so here's one, for example. So, for example, the cult of Zariel, right? It tells you your goals, their the type of typical people that would be cultists for her, in terms of like Berserker, Cult Fanatic, Gladiator. These are stat blocks from the Monster Manual. The signature spells are True Strike, Heroism, Spiritual Weapon, Crusader's Mantle, so it could be good to assign those to a character. But then it gives you these once-a-day abilities, which, like, this one here is called Ferocious Surge. Recharges after a short or long rest. When this creature hits with an attack that isn't a critical, it can turn it into a critical hit. So once a short rest, you get that. But, like, again, so that could be really, like, these are really good ways that you could take any other stat block for a general humanoid NPC, or maybe even not a humanoid, and then decide, oh, well, these guys, these gladiators or these town guards or something now are all corrupted, and they're all now worshipping Zariel, which means that once a short rest, they can get a critical hit on you, which is, pretty cool.
Yeah, Jesus. So I couldn't find the exact thing I was looking at earlier when I was doing a bit of research before the podcast. But there was a point in the book around where they start talking about the outer planes, and they mention basically all the stuff that kind of comes with demons. You got like your cursed items and objects, cursed locations, demonic infestation, demonic possession, which is always a fun thing to play with. Like there's so like I suppose it's not just demons. I keep saying demons. It's not just like fiends, Ugolots, and devils that you can play with here when you start bringing in like the demonic stuff. You can play with like that whole occultist background. You can go for like blood rituals and like fucking like black masses and like seances and like spirit boards and the whole shebang. You can bring all of that in for demons.
This is a weird one, because it's not particularly gritty or real, but it does definitely draw some inspirations on it. Not the original, but I think it's the Netflix Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
Yes, the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina.
Yes, they actually draw way more than the original Nickelodeon show ever did. They draw pretty heavily because they're based on the comics.
Yeah.
Which draw pretty heavily. It's the same character. She still has two aunts. She has a black cat named Salem. It's all. I think his name's Salem.
He is. He can't talk though.
She has a boyfriend named Harvey. You know, I prefer the cat talking.
Do you want to hear?
Just for the record. Just for the
Trying to
record.
hear something hilarious because it's so Netflix CW teen drama. Her boyfriend is Harvey Kinkle.
Yeah.
The Kinkle family are like they are like the descendants of witch hunters that came over on the Mayflower, and they're like the original family name is like Kirkinkle, and they changed it to Kinkle as the generations went down.
That was a subplot in the original Nickelodeon show where Harvey's friend Brad, I want to say, came by, and it was a whole thing where like if ever he accuses you of being a witch, you are instantly turned into a guinea pig or something stupid like that. But the chilling adventures of Sabrina the Teenage Witch actually draw on some like stuff from like the beast, the goat headed thing, and the devil himself, and it's way more true to actual witchcraft culture and stuff like that.
It's very occult based, very like Satanism based. Like they're all part of the Church of Night. They all like worship. One small thing from that I love is they say go to heaven instead of go to hell.
Yeah, that's cool. There's also like, not always, but like you'll find there's one group of girls who are from a different school that are always they're kind of like her frenemies in it. They're like not quite her enemies, but they sometimes work together and stuff.
They go to the magic school, she goes to, and not the regular school.
Yeah. But they're like, the three of them are like a coven. They work together because witches' covens typically work in threes. So the three of them like work together and cast their spells together and stuff as well. It's honestly, again, the show is very CW teen drama stuff, but they do draw some cool inspiration from real witchcraft and what's it, occult
the occult
stuff,
the occultism stuff that they do in it is done really, really well, really cool. Similarly, probably slightly less CW drama, but still a bit, is Supernatural. They do a lot of really, really good like occultist lore and supernatural. Buffy as well. Buffy has a lot of really, really great stuff for demons.
Buffy was, you could argue Buffy's kind of the OG, right?
Buffy's
before Supernatural, before Sabrina.
Oh, there's no Supernatural if there's no Buffy.
Yeah, I mean it's 1-to-1 more or less, like.
It's Supernatural I think was intended to be like Buffy for dudes, which was Angel.
Well, yeah.
I love Buffy.
Yeah, but I never got into Buffy when I was younger. I had friends who watched it. I never got into it, and honestly, I feel like I've missed out because looking when I remember like it was always on TV, and I remember the time she was revived, that she was actually killed and brought back to life. I remember like people made such a big deal, like this is one of the biggest things on television.
Yeah. No, I think it's on Disney Plus on Star now, so it'd be well worth a watch. But yeah, if you're looking for inspiration on how to like set up like a demonic ritual or something like that, or just get the demon like underworld occultist vibes going, watch a couple episodes of Supernatural or Buffy. And like just see, because like particularly in Supernatural, because the way they hunt things, actually no, kind of it's actually pretty equal, because like they're kind of, the Supernatural boys are like Buffy and Giles put together, because they have the fighting power and the knowledge in terms of like how they function, not specifically their actual strengths. And so like you get a lot of the same thing where it'll be like they'll open up a big dusty book with all these mad drawings, and it'll be like, okay, this demon can only be summoned on the third moon of the lunar cycle, and you need to say these words with the blood of a fresh goat and all this kind of, and you can build all that stuff into your world if you want to use demons in. Like, it just gives you the latitude to play with all that really fun occult stuff. I know as a DM, anytime I get to like lean into like the occult tropes, like I do like a spirit board, or like they're having a seance and like a spirit makes contacts, and all the flames of the candles shoot up really high and then go back down again. And so
and turn green or something like that.
Green flame.
Yeah,
but I just love like demons are really fun to use. They tend to have lots of really interesting abilities. They tend to be spellcasters, a lot of the higher level ones, so they prove more of a challenge. Some of them will have like really interesting features, like the Pit Fiend has a poison that prevents you from being able to be healed.
Literally just going to say the exact same thing. Yeah, while you're poisoned by that particular poison, I don't think any other creature does that, as far as I know. While you're poisoned by that, you cannot regain hit points, which is a scary thing, particularly if you don't know, and then you try to use a cure wounds or something, and the DM turns to you and goes, "There's no effect. You regain no health points." And
like it's not like that's the worst thing the Pit Fiend can do to you either.
No, not even close. It doesn't he have the mace where if he crits, it casts a fireball? Potentially. I haven't looked at the stat block in a while.
Yeah.
I put you up against one. Was it a pit? Yeah, it was. It was a
Yeah,
pit
it was
fiend.
a
Yeah.
Pit Fiend. Yeah, I remember.
I had you fight a bunch of like people who were all like warlocks. I basically made a bunch of player characters, and they were all warlocks and stuff like that. And then when the final guy was left, who was the father of the dwarf rogue in the party, he he basically he had killed his companion, but what I did was he cast his once a day true polymorph, and he turned himself into a pit fiend. Or was it a shape change? It was something like that. He turned himself into a pit fiend. I flavored it that the portal that was behind him, the essence of his patron who had been killed, leaked back through the portal and seeped into him and turned him into this big purple pit fiend. And you guys were in such a bad way. Like you had very few spell slots, very little health. You got by the absolute skin of your teeth because
God bless Disintegrate.
that's the thing though. So the sorcerer had like one high level slot left. He used it on a Disintegrate. I think he was higher in the initiative than the Pit Fiend was. If he hadn't done that or didn't have it or the Pit Fiend saved or something like that, it would have done no damage. And it was like the only thing because he had an insanely high con bonus. So he would have succeeded any concentration checks to maintain his spell and maintain his form. If there's no basically if Disintegrate hadn't been a thing, that's the only thing that was guaranteed to drop his concentration and turn him back into his however many d6 plus 40 I think it is. Yeah, so at the you're talking minimum a DC 20, more even when you add in just the minimum rolls on each dice. So you're talking about like a 20 something. He couldn't. I don't think he could. I said if he got a natural 20, I'd let him do it, but he didn't. Even though he rolled well.
Thank Christ. Because that was a
that was. I didn't know what you would have done. I don't know what I would have done. I had no way for you to get out of that. You're in like this other dimensional thing.
I was feeble-minded and had none of my spells.
Everyone had burnt almost all their spells and abilities at that point. It was a long fight.
I had everything, but I couldn't use it. That was the most frustrating thing.
Why not?
Because you feeble-minded me.
Oh, did I feeble-mind you? I feeble-minded a bunch of people.
Yeah, you did. You got feeble-mind happy towards the end there. Everyone took a trip to the coma zone once in a while.
Yeah. I did it with the final boss because in like the very, very early campaign, Mike, as Shamash, got a little bit yappy during his monologue, and then he got angry, and then like literally 2 or 3 years later, when the campaign is wrapping, he's like, "You didn't shut up that one time. I'm gonna feeble pinch you." But Martin.
Yes, Conor.
That's all the time we have for today.
Oh, it's been a hell of a good time.
Oh, I don't get it.
Yeah, it's great. It's fine. It's fine. No, it's cool. Like I know we were kind of general about things today, but like, and like to be honest, we didn't talk about like a bunch of stuff I kind of had written down still, so we can always revisit like demons and stuff and the hell.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
The hells. I think could be a fun episode maybe to just go through all the different hells because there's just 9 of them. We could just go through them and talk about it maybe at a future time. Mm-hmm. That'd be a fun one. But yeah, like I said,
I'm rewriting and writing some of my Archdevil lords for my own homebrew ones at the moment. I wouldn't mind throwing a couple of them in as well.
Yeah, do you know what? The more I mention it, every time I mention it, every time I'm almost more certain that the next campaign I run will be that 7 Deadly Sins one, where like the world has already been taken over. Because that just sounds appealing to me. I have just this vision of like across the sky there are these like 7 demon sigils just like permanently hovering to mark their territory.
And like one division, where the symbols are carved into the sky, kind of.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Almost like just like floating coats of arms, just like glowing over their territory or something. But yeah, like just with demons, like there's I said a few times, like there's just so much fun other stuff that comes along with demons, and demons are and like the demonic like demons like your Yugoloths, your pit fiend, your fiends, and your devils. They're all really fun itself, and like they tend to have like really cool abilities, like like the chain devil is so cool. I love he's just a living massive chain, like so I like chains and hooks and stuff. It's so Hellraiser. I love it. But like there's just a lot you can play with as a DM, and there's a lot of really fun like storytelling tropes and traditions you can like lean into with demons and occult.
I think maybe more so than a lot of other a lot of other types of monster in D&D, there's a lot of good baggage that comes along with demons, where you can draw on a lot of different inspirations, a lot of different cultures. Because again, like you said before, almost every culture has their own form of demons and or devils. So I think yeah, you have really really great stuff that you can draw on that to do any sort of adventure really.
Yeah, and if you're ever worried about getting it wrong, you can always just remember the time that Buffy the Vampire Slayer, in an episode that went to air, printed a bus timetable in Irish as a summoning spell for a demon.
What, really?
Yeah. Like there's like, oh, they're summoning this Celtic demon. We have to stop it. What's the spell saying? If you look at the spell and read it, it is Irish. It's actual
just Irish.
It's actual Irish. It's modern Irish. You can read it, and it's literally like an announcement about a change in bus timetable or something.
That is hilarious. I never knew that.
Yeah, it's brilliant. But yeah, so yeah, don't worry about messing up, because as badly as you mess up, Joss Whedon, who is a man of many faults, also just completely goofed it when it came to doing basic research for a spell. So yeah, all you have to do is basic research, and you're already better at Joss Whedon than doing demonic rituals. Well, are you alright?
I'm good. We do got a wrap though.
Okay, cool. Sorry,
I was pausing to give you time to go to do your outro bit.
Oh no, that's cool. That's cool.
Rather than launch into a new conversation.
But, oh yeah, I thought you were going to. But yeah, that'll be pretty much it for us today. Thank you all very much, guys, for listening. Conor, where can people find you on the internet?
People can find me on the internet on Twitter at 0.Conor, ZeroPointConor, 1 N, very important.
Damn it.
I knew you're behind on that one. And also you can find me every Friday here on the Micflayers podcast on YouTube and Spotify at 6 p.m. Irish time.
Yeah, and similarly to me, you can find me on the internet here on Micflayers every Friday. You can find me on Twitter at SoSorryIsOver, which is in the bottom right hand corner of my screen here. Also on the Micflayers podcast Twitter feed. You can find both myself and Conor there. And occasionally I'm known to stream on twitch.tv/Mert as well, which should be in the description. Cool. All right. Thanks very much for watching today, guys. And if you have any comments, questions, or topics you'd like us to cover, you can always leave a comment below or hit us up on Twitter at Micflayerspod on Twitter. And yeah, if you've anything you'd like us to talk about, let us know, and we'll be happy to give it a look and have a chat about it at some stage. So at the end of that, it'll be a goodbye from me and a goodbye from Conor.
Hey there, folks.
Bye bye. And we will talk to you same time next week on Micflayers. Bye bye.